open like sponges. They weren't just regular people. I mean, I've seen them in before. They weren't angels, you know. Well, God's angels. But Kat says, she comes running up there and she throws that thing on her. She says to the lady, she doesn't say it to me. It would have been so bad if she said it to me. She said, I don't have the time. You read it for yourself. And I'm like, oh no, she just blew this lady out the saddle. The lady was already frail, you know. She was already undone. And I was looking like, oh God, what do you want me to say and do? This has to be patched up. I can't have this. You can't do this to people, you know. And so she grabbed it and she said, you could see that she got mad and then she got hurt because a wound was in there. And what that thing did was it arose the anger, but then she was wounded and that thing sat her back down again. And she took the rejection of the thing. I said, oh no. I said, oh no. I go back there and said, Kathy, I'm telling you right now, you could have go up there and apologize to that lady. And I was like, what am I saying? Tell her to apologize to her? You got to apologize to that lady because I said, you hurt an offender. I can't do it right now. I said, well, you're going to have to do it. And I stood there like it's a command. Oh, okay. So what? She said, ma'am, I'm so sorry. And she really did. And finally, the lady went back up again. You know, by one little act of unkindness, because you were in the press. I mean, God's putting her into a press to get the oil of joy out of her and the bitterness out of her, worked out of her, that she knows that this stuff can't be there. But when she, you know, when they interacted, that told that stuff in Kathy to get out. Because once she humbled herself and she asked for forgiveness, the lady accepted it. There it was. There was the breaking of the bread and the drinking of the wine. Because I know the woman's saved. And you could see the joy and the gladness. And then I went back to Kathy. I said, Kathy, she said, no, I was wrong. I was wrong. And that was the best thing to do right there. You know. So sometimes you got to call a shot when you don't want to call a shot, you know. And you know what? It was like, it was so natural, supernatural. You know, so a lot of times there's going to be things that are kind of out of the norm, but you know they're right. But you know what? Had I been wounded myself, had I been rejected, had I been like, I ain't getting involved in this, oh no, I'm not stepping that today. I got my own stuff going on. You know, if you got an attitude like that, I wouldn't have went in there and say, listen, this is what you got to do. Because you don't know who they're related to in God. You know, they could be having an apostle over their family. And he could be praying for them. And he could be shooting out. And every judgment, every negative word that's being spoken against my family, if he's praying that, she could be looking out. You know, she could be getting them something thrown back at her and she don't really realize from that one word crosswise. So that's why God's really cleaning us up. Because when you call fire down in an altar to burn up some junk in other people's lives, and especially to kill some of these false prophets off, you don't think we ain't going to be doing that? If Elijah did it, Elisha, we're going to be doing the same thing. Where there's thunder, there's lightning, and there's fire. And we will be calling that fire down. When God says to do it, you'll do it. And I know we all in this room got the guts to do it at any given time. And he'll take you on a small plateau to see what you're going to do in front of other people. And believe me, when it's time for you to do just like Jeremiah, we will not care what their faces look like. We will go ahead and say and do it. Thus saith the Lord. It ain't going to matter to you because you know what? Your love for God is greater. It will bring up the God in you. And God will perform His word. That's all I want. I want God. I always wanted a building where God could perform His word. I wasn't thinking the vessel. The vessel goes with you because you are the vessel. You know, it says like, be the word, be the word. Well, yeah, being the word, well, be the word. Say the word, speak the word. When I tell you to speak that word, you speak that word, and it shall come to pass. Now, if it doesn't come to pass in 1 week, oh, it's going to come to pass. Because there's power in that word, and what he does, he starts, you know, channeling, just like the Red Sea. Lift up the rod. The rod was the word. It was the word, whatever's in your hand. Whatever in your mouth, because instructionally it'll do exactly, and it'll raise up a Red Sea and cause it to conform and have people walk through that thing. That woman today walked through that thing. She walked through some deliverance just like that because of that. Because it was a command and the woman did it. The woman received it, so there it was. There was healing in that thing. And I went back to her. I said, you know what? Because of it being a race issue in the lady's life, because somebody comes of another race, a lot of times, if you're willing to humble yourself, It helps them because it might have been somebody of another race that heard her before and it had really did something in their family. But you can be the one to go back and give them medicine, you know, of life into their life. And you think, oh, that little thing can do it. Oh, yes, it can. Because you know what? When we received Christ, all we did was say, yes, Lord. That's it. And then we got an eternal security set down in us that we are confident, we are trusting God. That's why the enemy fights you. Always remember, if he's fighting you on a front, if he's telling you this and telling you that, truly, really trying to backlash you in your mind on these things, you can count one thing. If he's lying to you about this, that's exactly what it is. It's a lie. Because he knows the threat that you are causing to bring about by your words, especially the Word of God spoken out. You know, you might not use King James or New Revised or American Version or whatever kind of versions they got going on. They got so many of them now, you don't even know what they are. And then they twist it up. I don't even know if I like it sometimes. That's why I go back to King James, because you know what? At least I know God has always spoke out of the King James to me. I mean, you can break it down, you know, but I mean, what are you saying here? This is actually what he wrote. You know, well, they revised it too like that. But I want to get an understanding of what you're saying now and what he's saying to it too. But anyway, verse 18 of chapter 17. But the mountain shall be thine, for it is a wood, and thou shalt cut it down. This is talking about how that Manasseh, they're a great people, and they wanted more land. And thou shalt cut it down, and the outgoings of it shall be thine, for thou shalt drive out the Canaanites, though they have iron chariots, and though they be strong. A lot of times, you want to look, like for instance, if you were alcoholic, or if we use drugs, or if we use perversion or sex, or whatever it is on the internet, or whatever they're doing, or however they're doing, we had a taste of all this stuff too. And because we thought that that thing was a giant that got a hold of us, sometimes we fear the fact of that giant because it took such a hold on us that we think there's capabilities of it happening again. No, there's not going to be capabilities of it happening again because God will thoroughly drive it out. You just say that's it, wash it away, get rid of it. If you smoked, you know, to me, that was one of the hardest things that I ever did in my life was quit smoking. I really only smoked 6 years, so I can imagine if people were smoking many, many years. And, you know, your willpower can play in that. But you know what? There's a spirit connected to it. So a lot of times it could be 15 years. You hear about these people that come back again 15 years later, and all of a sudden they're back smoking again. Something, this big, great catastrophe, you know, happens in their life. They're not really set in God, and there's nobody around to help them. They start that thing back up again. That's because that spirit came back around again. You know, you clean the house, and if it's not fitted in with the Word of God, and everything's pressed out, and it's clean in there, and God's continually washing, you know, with the water of the Word, that stuff will come back 7 times. You find out it's not too long before these people have cancers or whatever the case, and they're gone out, you know. But God said He's going to thoroughly drive these things out, you know, and with our permission. Because you could say, you know, okay, that's as far as I go. It's not to say that you won't get into heaven, but it's not to say that the purpose that was set for your life is a possibility. So that's why, if we've gone this far in God, why not continue to keep going all the way? You know, there's something in it for somebody else, not just us. But there's something in it for us too. Yes. You know, whereas maybe in times past it just didn't seem like, you know, really came to fruition. Now it is. And I'm seeing it. I'm beholding God's hand. I'm feeling a greater freedom than I ever had in my life. Amen. I really am. I am feeling a more relaxed state of mind and spirit. I'm realizing more of the joy of the Lord. You know, when you start sitting down and thinking of the old song, count your many blessings, name one by one, I mean, you can really sit down and count them. You know, I used to count the cost, but now I don't care what the cost is. It doesn't matter. I mean, well, I've gone past that anyway because, you know, I give up a lot of stuff so many times over the years that I think really what He did